evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point. I'm your host, Dave Kocharhook, and tonight we're going to have some fun tonight. This is a different kind of show for us tonight. As you can see, I sort of dressed down a little bit because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the martial arts and a specific martial art called Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And to tell me more about that and to show me a few things a little bit later is a friend of mine by the name of Marc Armstrong. Marc, welcome to Reference Point.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my passion for Jiu Jitsu with the rest of the world.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Now, you were telling me before the show, we were talking a little bit about how you actually got into this particular discipline. So what was how did that come about? Tell me about that. This is very interesting. I thought this was a cool story.
Sure. So I started watching UFC 3. So the UFC is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And in that fight, there was a guy named Ralph Gracie, and he was fighting somebody named Kimo. And Ralph Gracie is about 5'10", 5'11", and weighs about 160 pounds. This guy Kimo is about 245 pounds and looked like he was a college, NFL linebacker.
Big guy.
A nice big guy. And so they ended up fighting, and Ralph Gracie actually ended up beating him and submitting him with an armbar. And kind of at that point, I was like, wow, this is really something amazing, because here we have a guy that's outweighed by about 60 pounds, and he's able to not only defend himself but actually win a fight. So
did he win Did he actually win the whole competition, or
no? So the funny thing is, he when he won, he actually ended up throwing in the towel and giving up that night because the fight took so much out of him. But he actually did get the win in that particular fight. So I lived in Southern California at the time, and I was thinking to myself, it would be great to actually go out there and try it. So I actually went to what's called the Mecca of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is in Torrance, and the Gracie Academy, and this is where Ralph Gracie was teaching at.
So he's one of the Gracies after which the Gracie Academy is named?
Yes, and he was actually there, and I started training, and the rest is history, and I've loved it ever since.
There you go. Well, I want to talk about this concept of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because when I think of martial arts, and I think a lot of people think of martial arts, they think of the old dubbed-in Japanese and Chinese movies with kung fu and karate and tai chi and all that sort of stuff. So we always think of martial arts as being an Eastern discipline. Mm-hmm. So and Jiu Jitsu originally is an Eastern discipline martial art, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So what is it about? How did it get to Brazil, and what's unique about the Brazilian form of this art?
Sure. So the origins of Jiu Jitsu actually started in India with some Buddhist monks. It then kind of migrated over to Japan. In Japan, there's a couple of different martial arts. You have your karate, you have your kind of Kempo, right, and you have Jiu Jitsu. And kind of Jiu Jitsu was certainly kind of went through a transformative stage. And it was taken by the samurai class, and it's actually, if you think about it, the samurais with their heavy armor, kicking them or punching them, it's not really going to do anything to them. So they had to find some other way to get past the armor. And Jiu-Jitsu, which actually relies on joint manipulations and chokes, is a way to get through that armor. So it was actually kind of embraced by the samurai class in Japan. From there, it migrated to Brazil, which actually has a large Japanese population.
I had no idea that there was a large Japanese population in Brazil.
And it ended up, the person that ended up taking it was a guy by the name of Maeda. And he actually met the Gracie family in Brazil. And as a gift to the Gracie family, he actually took a couple of the Gracie kids under his wing and started training them in Jiu Jitsu. And one of those kids went by the name of Helio Gracie, and he's kind of like the grandfather of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And so he actually took Jiu Jitsu, and he's kind of like Ralph Gracie in that somebody who's really diminutive in stature. He was only maybe 140 or 150 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And so he kind of took Jiu Jitsu and modified it in a way that worked for him and really kind of revolutionized Jiu Jitsu, if you will.
Modified in a way that worked for him. That's an interesting phrase, because I know sometimes when you read about or hear about some of the disciplines, it's very strict. It's my way or the highway. It goes like this, or you're not part of our group, and that sort of thing. But it sounds like that there was a lot of freedom for him to be able to take the basics and develop a style that was, I guess, unique to him, which I guess then becomes unique to Brazil.
And that's really the beauty of Jiu-Jitsu, and that's kind of why I certainly jumped on the bandwagon and thoroughly embraced it. I mean, I blew out my knee about 4 years ago. I'm not the most limber person in the world. You know, you can see me, I'm kind of a bigger guy, but I can kind of take certain techniques that work for me, modify them in such a way, and actually use them and you know, have fun with it and really kind of go along with the sport and be competitive. So it's a great outlet for me to actually train.
So how long have you been involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
About 7 or 8 years now.
7 or 8 years, okay. And I got to let the people know that Marc, in his day life, is an accountant. So he's a CPA. So you look at him and you think, is this guy, he kind of looks like a CPA, you know? Does he look like a martial artist? I don't know. But it's really very cool when you started telling me about that. So, and the other thing that we were talking about is some of the things that you have derived from participation in a martial art that have actually enhanced other parts of your life. And I'm very interested in hearing more about that.
Sure. So as we kind of talked about, the adaptability of Jiu-Jitsu is something that really appealed to me. And what I mean by that is you can certainly take elements of Jiu-Jitsu and the techniques and kind of hone them to your particular skill set and use them. And really, when you go down Jiu-Jitsu, it's really a journey and kind of a life path. And you really can apply those lessons to life outside of the mat in such a way. So for example, Jiu-Jitsu has been definitely a grind. It's one of the hardest things I've done, but it's also been one of the most fulfilling things. And really, you know, the school I'm at right now, and I could say this for all the schools I've been at, there's really kind of a brotherhood or fraternity that's really formed because we're all kind of going through the same thing, and we're all trying to help each other get better at our you know, particular Jiu-Jitsu style. And so it's really been, you know, it's great how it kind of transcends the mat, so to speak, and really applies to other areas of my life.
Have you seen a direct correlation to whatever you've learned from being a Jiu-Jitsu student, physically, psychologically, emotionally, whatever, into your business life?
Certainly. I've certainly learned a great deal of humility.
Humility.
Jiu-Jitsu has been great. I mean, so I've been doing it for quite a while, and you know, I have a bit of experience. And every time I start to think that you know, I'm doing great and on top of the world, you know, I'll go against you know, an older man that weighs maybe 130 pounds and just get my butt kicked. And so it provides a reality check for me, and that is certainly something I can apply to life, in that it just keeps me humble and down to earth and grounded.
Very cool, very cool. So you've been up here in the Bay Area now for about a year or so, because you were saying you first got involved in the discipline down in Southern California.
That's right.
And you've been up here for a while. And are there a lot of locations, academies? I mean, I had never heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've heard of Jiu-Jitsu,
right,
but I'd never heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu until you and I were talking one day at a business meeting. And so is it, how well known is it? Is it something that's fairly prolific or what?
It certainly is. I mean, as I think I alluded to, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was marketed in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The Gracie family actually owned the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Oh,
everyone is familiar with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And so that was actually a way for the Gracie family to show to the world that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu could take on any other martial art and, you know, dominate and do well. And so in terms of locations, certainly wherever there's a beach. So most of the instructors are Brazilian, because that's where it came from. And so most Brazilians like to surf. They like the beach. And so definitely in California, you'll find a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu locations. On the East Coast, New York, you know, wherever there's a strong Brazilian population, you'll find a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies.
And has it become, from what you just said there, relative to where there's a lot of Brazilians, there's a lot of this, has it tended to expand out? Because I know when you think of some of the other martial art forms that you read about or hear about or whatever, there are Tai Chi studios and karate studios and Kempo studios, et cetera, that are not run by Japanese. They're like, hey, it's become an Americanized thing.
Right.
Has that level of well, I guess I'll call infusion into society, not just here in the U.S. and Brazil, but worldwide, has that actually been occurring for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Do you have really top-notch practitioners that are
non-Brazilian?
Non-Brazilian, yeah.
Absolutely. My instructor right now, so I train at Ralph Gracie Jiu Academy in San Francisco, and my instructor's name is Kurt Osiender, and he's non-Brazilian. I was actually trained under Ralph Gracie, who is Brazilian. But certainly there's an infusion of talent among non-Brazilians. A lot of Americans, Europeans have picked up the sport or martial art, if you will, and have really kind of forged their own way into it and made their name.
Very cool. So do you do any, yourself, do you do any competitive events? From
time to time when my schedule allows. Actually, I competed about 6 months ago.
Yeah?
And I got second place.
Oh,
it was the Santa Cruz Open. So, when my schedule allows it, I certainly like to compete.
Now, was that just a jiu-jitsu competition or?
That was a jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah. Is there I know that when you look at, for instance, the Olympic Games are coming up here in 2016, and there's various martial art competitions associated with the Olympic Games as well. Is there an American team for jiu-jitsu in general or Brazilian jiu-jitsu in particular? Do you know?
Not that I've heard of, but there's certainly, like I said, there's plenty of American practitioners that compete at the world circuit. So most of the world championships are actually in Southern California because a lot of the Brazilians have come to Southern California. But there certainly are, competitions in Brazil as well, and you can actually go down to Brazil and compete as a non-Brazilian. But it's certainly grown out of Brazil and gotten to other parts of the world.
So one of the things that you were telling me, Mark, is that as you progress in the discipline, there are certain levels, belt levels. Is that fairly standard, the color things, is that fairly standardized across different types of martial art?
No, so it's somewhat unique to Jiu-Jitsu. So as I mentioned, the progression is you start at white and then go to blue and then purple, and that's what I am, I'm a purple belt. The next level would be brown and then black. You tend to have different colored belts in different, martial arts. But I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is unique in this respect in terms of its own belt order.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that we're going to do a little bit later, I'm going to let people know a couple things right now. One is if you want to know anything more about what we're talking about, I'm going to tell you this now, folks. Send your queries into info@referencepointtv.com. We're going to learn more about martial arts, specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the other thing that's going to happen here in a few minutes is that Mark's going to actually show me some things. So we're going to end up, for you it'll be a nanosecond, but for us we're going to stop recording. He and I are going to change. We're going to come back out here and it'll be in a heartbeat and it'll look like, oh, these guys did something like out of Star Trek where we just instantly changed. So we're going to do that in a couple of minutes and we're going to show you a little bit of this particular discipline. So before we get into doing that, we have just a few seconds before we wanted to take the break. Is there anything specific you wanted to communicate about this form that has been special to you?
Sure, I just wanted to share my passion for Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu has done a lot for me both on and off the mat, and to the extent I can share that with the rest of the world, I'm happy to do that so that other people can hopefully take from it and hopefully get interested and actually try it.
Very cool. All right, and with that, we're going to break now, and we'll be back in just a moment and show you some Jiu-Jitsu. Well, folks, we're back. As you can see, we've changed now, and Mark here is going to show me a couple of moves in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, Mark, what do we start with?
Yes, let's start with a sweep from guard. This is called
sweep from guard.
A sweep from guard. This is called the scissor sweep.
The scissor sweep, all right.
So it starts with me getting down. Do you want to get on your knees?
Sure.
So this is a very common position in Jiu-Jitsu. It's actually neutral. So you may actually think that the guy on top has a better position, but because my hips are free, I actually have lots of movements. So I have actually lots of opportunities for either sweeps or attacks from here.
So the hips don't lie, I guess is what you're saying.
The hips definitely do not lie.
Type
Yes.
thing. All right.
You'll see that in doing jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu is a lot about control. So whoever's doing controlling generally ends up winning the fight.
Okay. And so you can control my position here because of your hips.
Because of my hips. So if you were trying to posture up, I can use my hips to bring you back down. Normally what I do is I'd have my hand in your collar. I can use this to also control your base. And I can also control your arm just by holding onto this right here.
Right.
So in this particular position, I start like this. And in order to sweep you, what I'm going to do is scoop my hips out and end up in this position. So my leg is on the ground.
Right.
My other leg is across your chest like this.
Okay.
I'm holding your arm right here to prevent you from posting this out as a potential base, as a brace for you. So I don't want you to do that. So what I'm going to do is just kick my feet and come up on top. So it looks like this.
Oh, wow. That was like fast.
And now I'm in the top position in a dominant position.
And so you can control that from there.
Yeah.
And because I don't have my legs around you, so my hips are locked.
Your hips are locked down by my hips, and you're actually open to a lot of attacks right now. I can attack your neck if I have this hand in here. If you use your arms to try to prevent it, I can set you up for an arm lock. So right now you should be focused on escaping the mounted position, because this is a bad position for you, where it's a good position for me.
Got it. Okay.
So I can show that again if you want to see it again, and then you can actually try it on.
Yeah, let's do that again. And then I can try it on you. Oh, that'll be good. All right.
So again, I've ended up in the guard position.
Is this a one of the fundamental and early skill set type?
This is a very simple Brazilian Jiu Jitsu sweep.
Okay.
So this is something that we would teach our white and blue belts.
Okay.
So again, we're in the guard position. I'm controlling your posture by keeping a hand in the collar.
Okay.
I'm also controlling your other arm.
All right.
When I'm ready or when I feel like I want to go, I scoot my hip back, put my leg on the ground.
Right.
To sweep you and use my upper leg, and then I just kick, so I come up like that, and I just follow you straight
And
up.
then you roll over and get on top.
Yep.
All right.
Ready to give it a try?
Ready to give it a try. All right, let's see if we can do this. So, I guess we just changed spots, right? I'm over here now, right?
Yep. You probably want to move just a little bit more over this way.
Okay.
So I'm in your guard position. So put your legs around me to the extent you can.
To the extent I can. To the extent I can.
And then this hand goes in my collar.
Now, as far up as I can grab
As
it.
far up as you can get it.
And then this hand
is controlling that hand.
grabs this here. Right, okay.
When you are ready to go, you can move your hips out that way, about 4 inches.
That way.
Out that way.
Okay.
About 4 inches.
All right, so I go like that.
Yep. This leg goes down to the ground.
Down to the ground.
This one comes across like that. Control my arm so to keep it in. Yeah,
Keep it in.
And now just go. Now just kick.
And then kick.
And go up and follow me. There you go. That's it right there.
Okay.
That's your scissor sweep.
I'm gonna try that again.
Okay.
I'm gonna try that again. All right. This is a workout, Mark. This is you're doing this. I know during the day. It's not just kind of like having coffee and sitting back. This is a workout.
Certainly beats going to the gym.
All right, let's try that again. So I wrap my legs around you like this,
Right.
as best I can. This hand goes up into your collar.
Yeah, you want to control my posture so I can come up on.
Right. So and then this one grabs here so that I can.
Yep.
No, not this way.
Yeah, or just hold it so you want to prevent me from putting my hand on the ground.
Okay.
So just, as long as you hold it there, you're fine.
Okay. Then
Now
I
when
kick
you're
my
ready,
hips out.
Kick your hips out.
Like
give you
that?
space. Yes.
Go like this.
Yep.
And then like this.
And then come up.
And I come up.
Yep. That's it right there.
Whew. All right. That was cool. So
Now, do you want to do the second part of that? There's actually a choke that you can
there's
do.
another part of that.
There's another part of that. It starts.
All right.
You can start. I can do the. You want to start from the scissor sweep, or do you want to start from the mount position?
Let me go down. You've already swept me.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm
Now you're down.
down on the ground.
Yeah, just lay down like that.
So look.
So when I swept you, my hand was in the collar.
Right. Okay.
So now all I need to do to choke you is bring my left hand across, and I bring my elbows to my chest and come down. So I come down like that.
That hurts. Actually, that's interesting. It doesn't really hurt, but obviously it cuts off the air supply.
Right.
So what did you do? You brought your elbows together?
Yeah. So I'm actually using the the pointy part of my
right, whatever that bone is.
yeah, whatever that bone is right here, and actually driving that into your neck, and then coming across the other, and I'm just kind of collapsing the space there and choking you.
Okay. Let's try that again.
So I'm here
Now,
with this.
okay, so is there a defense against that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you can do if you stick your arm in like this, and you want to call making the phone call. So if you put your arm like as if you're kind of dialing on. Now I can't bring my arm down anymore. You're kind of protecting yourself.
So when you did the sweep on me, it was a very fast move. It took me a little longer because I'm not used to it. But I'm guessing that most of the actions are very quick actions. Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you have to, based on what you're observing of the person that you're competing against, you have to make a quick decision as to what's going to be the right move to get the advantage.
Absolutely. Jiu-Jitsu is all about position and control. So if you are able to kind of force the fight and make the person kind of do what you want to do, you're winning. So as long as you can kind of keep within your comfort zone and keep the other person kind of defending or reacting to you, you're winning the fight, and eventually, you'll either submit him or be in an advantageous position.
Got it. Okay, so we're going to do the choke thing again.
Yes. So it starts with one hand in the collar.
Okay. Because that was already there when we did the...
When we did the sweep, I already set it up.
Right.
So now all I have to do is bring the hand to the other side. I come as far as I can get.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to try to bring it underneath your chin, and I come down.
Okay, good. So now, seeing that might happen, that's when I would do one of these things, right? To try to prevent you from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so Jiu-Jitsu is all about moves and counter moves.
Okay.
So I try to do something, you're going to react to it a certain way. If you actually end up doing that, you're setting yourself up for a potential armbar. I would move to an armbar, which would necessitate me kind of grabbing your arm and kind of spinning around and kind of going for an arm lock. So
okay. So now from the position that I'm in, which is a non-advantageous position,
right.
How do you get out of this?
Sure, do you want me to show you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can mount me.
Right, so I'm over here, and my hips are around your hips, right?
So I mentioned the importance of hips. I mean, you can keep your hand in there, whatever.
This one, that's the one was over there, right?
Right. So what I'm going to want to do is bridge a certain way, which means I'm going to lift my hips up and create a little bit of room and turn onto my side. What I'm going to want to do is try to get back control of my hips. So I start doing, as soon as I'm like this, now I can trap that leg. Now I'm entered into what's called half guard, or I'm controlling half of your body.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of me moving my hips on again, and I can come out and I can recompose guard, which is that position we were in originally.
Very cool. Whew. So when you go to, by the way, do they call the academy a dojo like they do in other disciplines?
Academy dojo.
Academy. So when you go to the academy, how long is a typical training session evening?
It lasts generally about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. We do about half an hour to 40 minutes of warm up, and then we do about 40 minutes of techniques, and then we do about a half an hour of sparring.
So the warm ups are for what purpose?
You'll find when you do jiu-jitsu that cardio is king. That as long as you can maintain good cardio, that your technique will stay true to jiu-jitsu.
Now, is that in terms of not letting your heart race, or when you say cardio, is that a control of the heart rate, or what?
It's kind of a mixture of everything that you mentioned. You'll find when you're doing jiu-jitsu, it can be very tedious, especially we typically roll for about 5 or 6 minutes. And when you're doing that, you're exerting at least 80 or 90% of what you could be. So you have to maintain good cardio. So I mean, it's really an endurance race.
Got it. When you're in a competitive situation, is it just like you go until somebody is determined to either tap out or to have won, or are there rounds like you would have in a boxing match, 3 minutes and then a break and 3 minutes?
Generally, it's one round, and it depends on the level of your belt in terms of how long that round is. And there's a couple ways you can win. One is by submission, so if you're able to submit your opponent, and the second generally is by points. So To the extent you can mount them or sweep them, you'd be given points. And at the end of the match, if you have more points than your opponent, then you'd win.
Got it. Okay. So we've got 2 more minutes left in the show. So what else can you show me and show the folks relatively quickly that would be interesting?
Okay, so I can show you another attack. So why don't you lay down like as if I was about to mount you?
This is okay here?
Yeah. Can you turn around the other way so that maybe move to the
middle?
Yeah, move to the middle.
All right. Down to about 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Okay. So in this position, I'm in side control. This is another very common position in Jiu Jitsu. And here is kind of one of my favorite submission techniques. So from this position, what I would do is, and it's kind of sneaky, I'm using my own lapel to choke you. So I take my lapel and I pass it over to my free hand right here. And then I simply spin towards you. And it ends up choking you.
Oh, yes, it does. Wow. That was quick and easy.
Yes. You want to try that on me?
Well, what that tells me is that in the process, you also take advantage of whatever happens to be in your environment, whatever you're wearing or whatever, because it's when you're doing something at the academy, everyone's in the gi. If you're out in downtown San Francisco and somebody decides they want to get rough or something, it's whatever you've got available.
Absolutely.
To be able to control the situation. Well, this is cool. We have less than a minute now, so we're gonna have to stand up and thank everybody for joining us here. So, Mark, this has been great. So now, what is the formal greet at the end or at the beginning? Is there something like that?
Yeah,
like
just a standard bow.
Just a standard bow? This has been wonderful. Thank you for coming on my show. I really enjoyed this. I hope the folks who are watching have learned something and take advantage. Find the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Academy closest to you. Check it out. You'll find it's invigorating, and I'm excited. This is very cool.
Very cool. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching us. We'll see you next time on Reference Point.